Danny on the beat, boy.
Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. Your host, Eddie Arnett. My man, G Witt, Mr. J. Luke.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up, man. Excuse me. So here we are, man. Week 1, Titans versus Saints. Was pretty excited, right? Because the Titans were coming into this one fairly healthy, not like we have been in the last couple seasons. Wanted to see what this offense is going to be like, right, guys? We hadn't seen it yet in full totality. Want to see if Kelly would take advantage of the weapons that were here: D-Hop, Spears, Henry, Burks, Chick, you name it. And how would the play calling work? We were used to the last 2 seasons of the run pass. We see the same thing this week. Got a lot to talk about on that. And then would the defense be as dominant as they could potentially be? Results: Saints 16, Titans 15. Nick Folks, 5 field goals, guys. Titans couldn't capitalize in the red zone, going 0 for 3 with only 6 points in the second half. So, G Witt, 3 takeaways from this game, man. 3 takeaways. Your first initial thoughts after this game, well, with 3 of them.
Okay. Okay. On the positive side, I'm not down on the defense. I think they did pretty good. They gave up some plays, but they shut it down when they had to. Just couldn't do it at the end. So I'm not blaming them for that. But I thought the defense played well. Could they have improved in the second? They could have improved a little bit in the second half, but overall, you hold an offense like that with receivers that they had, you hold them to 16 points. I can't really complain about too much on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side of the ball, I will say 2 things about that. One, I didn't think they used the king enough as far as the offense was concerned. I thought they got away from what should have been your bread and butter. And I will say this, Tannehill had a bad game, but I think the thing that Kelly needs to realize, we don't need Tannehill to win games for us. He's a better quarterback just being part of the whole process. So you want him to play well, play efficiently, but you don't need him to win games. So you really don't want to keep putting the game in his hands. You got and with Derrick Henry and everything, that's your most valuable weapon. That's the one who you got to put in his hands to win the game for you. And but overall, I'm not happy at all. I was happy with the defense, wasn't happy with the offense at all. I thought the offensive line improved a little bit over the course of the game, but just not a good offensive showing. Didn't even get in the end zone, man. I'm sorry.
J. Lou, man, what you got, man? Your first initial thoughts after the game, man. 3 takeaways on those, sir.
I thought the offensive line settled in. I think we still got some opportunities there. I think they settled in. I think on the flip side, Tannehill's pocket presence was probably worse than we thought. I know we'll get to the comments because the play calling. I think the play calling is up for debate depending on how you viewed it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was like last year's, only because you saw a lot more open formations. I think this is where you're seeing the team in the midst of a transition and you're watching it unfold live. We've talked about they've been leaning on the king forever, which rightfully so. And he looked like a man on a mission on the few runs he had today. But we've also said we wanted them to kind of switch the offense up a little bit and open it up some more. And you saw it today. We threw the ball, 35 times, I think, with Tannehill, something crazy like that. So I think you see the transition in a little difference of it. I personally, and this is my personal thought, I think today was 100% play calling from Tim Kelly. I think next week, going forward, he might give him one more week, and then I think you see Vrabel dial it back into what we're used to seeing more of the king. That's just my opinion. Because again, we talked about during the summer, you want Tajay Spears to take snaps away from Henry so that he's fresh. But I just think that Derrick Henry, he's been here 9 years. We know he's a volume runner. you were taking them out at unnecessary times today that was throwing off the rhythm. The defense, Arden Key and Azir, they are as advertised. Azir is a heat-seeking missile.
Yes, sir.
And Arden Key is as advertised. I thought the defense, I'll be honest. We talk about the offense needs to play preseason because you saw the rust. I say the same thing on the defense because I think the second half, and again, they were on the field a lot more, but I think the second half, and remember, you was in a dome, so it ain't like you were dealing with humidity or anything, but I think you see the tiredness come through in the second half because they were a little winded. There's no way that last play that went for a third down for them to get the run. That stopped the first, second, and third quarter. It works Q4 when we knew it was coming, only because I just think they were on the field and tired too much. And then the last thing, I'm going to say coaching, and I'm going to put, a lot of people want to put it on Tannehill because he threw interceptions and he's the player, exactly. I'm going to put about 75% on Vrabel because I think Vrabel out-coached himself, and I ain't used to seeing him do that. Mm-hmm. And you saw both sides of the coin with Vrabel. You saw him the first half and getting ticked off at the refs because they were doing what they do best. But, he was challenging plays the whole nine in it. I, for the life of me, think if the exact same situations happens 3 games from now, he's not scared at the end, and you go for it on fourth down. If you make the comment that you trusted your defense to stop you and get the ball back, then I'm going to trust my defense to stop them on my 10-yard line so that I've got a shorter field possibly to work with as opposed to kicking it off and letting them drive. And I just think that was a coaching. You don't see Vrabel coach scared too often. And I think that kicking that field goal to go 15-16 with, 2 minutes and 17 seconds left, with timeouts. When you're down that low, I go for it. You miss it again. Worst case scenario, they've got the length of the field to drive, and your defense is probably in a little bit of position to stop it. So that'd probably be my bucket of takeaways.
All right, so here's mine real quick. So, and Deion said it perfectly. He said that's why our starters need to take some snaps in the preseason offense. I believe that's why we saw Tannehill play so bad today. He was rested. His timing was off. Think about it. And I texted y'all during the game. This guy hadn't played football since last October. And so he hadn't had any live reps. I mean, say what you will. When you don't do something for a long period of time, you're not going to produce. I don't care who it is. You're a runner and you don't run for a while. And you got there and try to run again, you're going to be out of shape. And so that hurt him. Of course, the offensive line, they had a rough start, but Tannehill holding the ball so much. He had clean pockets at times. His pocket presence was terrible, like you said, J. Lou. I think Kelly could have helped him out if they would have went no huddle, more up-tempo type stuff, play action stuff, kind of get him in the rhythm. You saw that if you watched the New England game, what did they do to Matt Jones? Same thing, up-tempo style, get him in the rhythm, and they came back, right?
Yeah.
We could talk about the receivers not getting open and things, but how many times did Tannehill hold that ball too long? How many times do we see Tannehill throw people open, throw in tight windows in the pass? Yeah. He does that. And so, again, I just think the lack of game preparation for him in the preseason hurt. I think also that Bowen played too much soft coverage for me, to my liking. Mm-hmm. I thought we had opportunities to do more, be more physical on the edges with our DBs. Why was Fulton in the game when he had a pulled hamstring at the end? That's who knows? And then, like you already said, y'all both said the coaches didn't coach well today. Again, I say Kelly not picking up the tempo on offense. And then I put it on Vrabes for not playing his starters in the preseason, not getting them ready. We've seen this the past 2 or 3 years, and it's the same thing in week 1. They come out, they're flat. But you got to give credit to their defense, man. They held in, and I agree with you, J. Lou. They got tired at the end, and it showed as it came around. So thank y'all for coming out, man. All the people that showed up so far, your comments, your questions, man, keep them going. We will get it to them as quickly as possible. So let's look at the offensive side of the ball, J. Lou, man. Talk about this offense, what you thought about it. I know we kind of hit on some things already, but what else can you say, man? 285 yards of total offense for the Titans today.
Yeah, man. I think, you saw some different formations. Now, we saw 5 wide several times out there today.
I know you were happy too.
Oh, man, I was smiling.
You teared up, huh?
I was smiling. My only thing I was hating was the one thing that I would have liked to saw that you think is a staple of Tim Kelly. I didn't see a lot of crossing routes out of that 5 wide. And again, To me, if you go back and look, and part of it is you saying Tannehill holding the ball too long. to talk about he who should not be named offense, the one thing about his offense with passing plays, we always said his routes took too long to develop. And I thought we saw a little bit of that today. Now, I will preface this by saying the creativity was there. If you go back and again and just relax after watching the game and really detail and look at it,
Look at it.
we schemed up 3 wide open touchdowns that Tannehill missed.
Yep.
Like 3 wide open touchdowns that he
Wow.
missed. So that's a difference of, and again, that goes back to Russ and all. I will say this, and the difference. So we just said that the King is a volume runner. The one thing you've heard about D-Hop, he's a volume receiver.
Mhm.
Tannehill, I think, was trying to force too much to DeAndre Hopkins. I think he had like 13 or 14 targets.
13, yeah.
Yeah, Nuke can catch some good things, but when it got to the point where they were locked in on him with 2, sometimes 3 in coverage, and you've got people wide open. One of them interceptions, I'm almost positive Chig was wide open if he checks it down just a little bit before that. So again, I think they're all learning a new offense and just try again. You didn't play in the preseason. You can only do so much in practice against each other. But again, I thought the offensive line, and again, the other thing I had wrote down, the difference this year than last year, you saw a different type of offensive running plays. Like the run game to almost average 5 yards a carry on an NFL defense. You went away from it to G Witt's point. You went away from it too soon. I think
15 carries.
You could have mixed it in because I mean, so he had 15. And I don't even remember how many Spears had. Maybe
3.
You didn't do no more. Yeah, so you didn't do no more than 20 as a team. And I think we just went away from that because of 5 yards of pop. That would take some of that pressure off that defense. But overall, like I said, I thought the play calling, he had a feel for the game. But I just think his feel was wrong a few times in the game. But I like the creativity in scheming because, again, there were several times when you go back and you can see the all 22. We schemed some receivers open. Our quarterback just got to get over his PTSD.
Yeah. And I agree with that. The first thing that's really, I thought the offensive line, like I said, struggled at the beginning. Especially the left tackle, he really struggled. But at the same time, I thought they settled down and actually played fairly well. And again, Tannehill had, and for the most part, with the exception of a few plays, he had plenty of time to throw the ball. But like you said, his pocket awareness was just, for lack of
trash. You can say it.
It was horrendous. I thought, really, in all honesty, it's like I text you guys. Tannehill was sleepwalking through the game, man. He really was. I mean, he just was not on it. He was late with passes. Even the passes he completed, he was late.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's going to be a problem. Again, I think it's going to have to come down to Kelly understanding and recognizing something that you don't, again, like I said earlier, you don't need Tannehill to win the game for you.
Right.
You really don't. He's not an elite quarterback, and you can't make him into one.
Mm-mm.
But you got to recognize the fact that you have a strong running game. You got 2 good running backs. Let's just be real about it.
Yes.
Because Tajay Sharp showed you I can run between the tackles.
Yes.
And there were a couple of runs he had. It flipped New Orleans defense and caught him off guard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing I think they got to recognize. Tim Kelly has to recognize something that Arthur Smith realized from up front. Do more play action with the King in the game. Let it be known that you do play action, because one thing about the play action with Tannehill, it gives him more time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's not feeling the trash around him. He has more space. And again, with Tannehill, like I texted you guys earlier, he's got to quit trying to play hero ball. I think he had it in his mind that he's going to make a huge play and ends up throwing interceptions or ends up not throwing into triple coverage or double coverage or whatever, and missing guys who are wide open. And then, now, J. Lou, I will say I will disagree. Well, I won't necessarily disagree with you. I'll just have a difference of opinion on this, I guess you'd call it. But I had no problem with – well, I did have a problem with him not going for it on that 4th down and 5 inside the red zone. But I also understood. I understood because they hadn't done anything on 3rd down the whole game.
No, I agree.
And I was thinking, I understood what he was thinking, that my defense could probably get out here and get a 3 and out. Just the fact that they just didn't do it. But like you said, the defense was tired. They were on the field for most of the second half. This was a bunch of 3 and outs. But receivers have got to get, New Orleans was physical, and I thought our receivers, with the exception of D-Hop, struggled with that physicality. I thought they struggled real bad, and that's something that they have got to work on, because the referees were letting them, it was all handsy the whole game. It was handsy because even Molden got away with a PI. So and the only reason they called that one PI on New Orleans was because he actually tackled Chig before the ball got there. So, but they got that receiving group has got to learn to be a bit more nasty in how they play. Some of them are big and strong, but like Treylon Burks, he's big. He's got to learn how to be a bit more nasty.
Yeah.
To get through all of that, because he really let too many people manhandle him today. And it bothers me when I see NWI as the one Tannehill is targeting because nobody else is open. That's going to be the difference, man. They have got to go back to the drawing board, and Tim Kelly has got to get to the point to where he understands, look, Tannehill, you got to make him a rhythm passer. If he's not in rhythm, speed the offense up. Quick passes. Get him going. Let him go no huddle. Don't let him sit there with 17 seconds on the play clock, get to the line of scrimmage, and take 15 seconds to call the play. Quit doing that. Just get up there and run the play and move. Because right now you having him hold the ball and he's dropping straight back. It ain't good. And with that pass rush, him going with an empty backfield really did not help him out at all, especially with the way he was shaky in the pocket in the first place. So, there's a lot to build on, but I just think it's a matter of, like Vrabel said in this post game, the coaches have got to coach better, like he always says. But in this case, it's true. Tim Kelly has got to do a better job coaching that offense during the game and getting the ball out of Tannehill's hand a lot quicker and moving the ball. Because a couple of drives they got in a good rhythm. Then, of course, they miss a pass, don't make a play, or throw the ball short, guy gets tackled, all of that. So, it was just one of those games where, again, like the past few years, we lose the first game.
So, I didn't have a problem with him going empty and going 5 wides. He's got to get rid of the ball. Yeah. He's got to get rid of the ball, man. He had time to throw the ball.
Open. That's the problem.
He had some people open. NWI was open, and when they was in, that's who he was throwing the ball to, unfortunately. But again, he's got to get rid of the ball. And I agree with you, Eddie Gray. He said Tannehill was rusty, and Deion said he just got bad. He does have bad habits, Deion. He does start out his receivers, but the rust was there. I mean, I disagree with you don't think he was rusty because he had played. He had played since October, man. You just can't come out there and get into a rhythm and not had any snaps in the preseason. I think so EJ said, how can he get into a rhythm? You pick up the tempo of your offense. You go no huddle. You pick it up. You let him call the plays at the line of scrimmage. You do things of that nature.
You treat him. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go ahead.
You treat him like if it was Malik or Will Levis, you would see 3-yard routes, give them quick short passes. Like we didn't do screenplays near enough. And they were working.
I think two for sure.
To get him in a rhythm, you've got to give Tannehill these easy shots. Let these receivers use the short pass game as an extension of the run game. And I think that's what we want. And that's what, when you go 5 wide against a team that can rush like that, that's what the 5 wide spread offense can do. If you do that, the problem was we're 5 wide and want to do 5-7 step drops and we pat the ball. And again, and this is where, you have to really go back and watch. A couple of the sacks Tannehill took today, I text y'all, that was on him. The offense did their part. They can only hold up for so long. They did their part. I haven't seen in the years that Tannehill's been here, even the horrible Cincinnati game that everybody keeps bringing up today, his pocket presence hasn't been that bad. Again, I'm telling you, to Eddie's point, the last time he really played meaningful football in October, he had Dennis Daly and he was seeing ghosts. We saw that at the beginning of this game. And when the offensive line finally settled down, I still think mentally he was feeling folks around him and just was hesitant.
You can tell. Look at his feet. I mean, look. I remember one play, and I can't remember if it was third or fourth quarter. He runs into Andre Dillard in the pocket. So you already knew it. At that point, he was shook.
But that was the whole point with him, man. Like I said, you could call it rust, but there's some things, you just got to be able to, as an NFL veteran, like I said, pocket presence should be second nature to you, in all honesty. And we just didn't see that. And don't get me wrong, Eddie, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with, but I'm just not giving him that excuse. He's got to be able to do better. I mean, he was the same in the second half that he was in the first half. It wasn't too much difference in that. So, like I said, with him, and Kelly, they're going to have to, he's got to get back to the play action like Arthur Smith had to give him that space. Because you notice when he had play action, especially with the King in there, he had plenty of space back there, no trash around him, and was able to make the passes. Right now, you're dropping him back, even in a 5 wide, you're dropping him back. To your point, Jabbar, he's seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
He's seeing ghosts. And he's holding the ball way too long. So to me, you just got to get him out of, you got to go hurry up, get him out of, and start doing a lot more play action with Derrick Henry in the game. Because again, Derrick Henry is the threat that makes people pay attention to him when you fake a handoff. They're going to go to him automatically. And that gives you time enough. You can do a control rollout with him and actually get him a chance to either throw the ball or run. The same way you used to do back when Arthur Smith was calling the plays. You got to start throwing those things back in there because right now, I'm going to tell you like this. The playbook I saw today, with the exception of some of those 5 wides, it was the same as he who shall not be named.
So, yeah, and I'm going to agree with you just a little bit on that because that was one of my points. You saw they had 12 personnel in the game. They traded the tight ends both to the same side, and they ran the same play over and over and over, hoping that the backside cutoff would be there because that's what it was designed to go, right?
Yeah.
So,
the field mics picked up the defense the second half, calling the side of the field the run plays were going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he got predictable, and that was some of my offensive points, but he got predictable on some play calls. Again, 0 for 6 in the first half on third down conversions, 2 for 12 for the game, 3 sacks, 3 interceptions. And how many times now for him to miss wide open touchdown passes? I mean, what can you say? I mean,
the one to Chig was so egregious. Like, I mean, I was like, where is he throwing the ball?
Well, here's the thing. The one to Chig, I was looking at the game like, okay, you throw a layup to D-Hop and get it intercepted. If you throw a layup to Chig on that and give him a chance to run under it,
it's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown. He's got his man beat. And that's what we're talking about. It's just, and that goes back to what you said about the rust and everything. Not understanding the situations, but that interception to D-Hop. I mean, that last one. I'm like, dude, you didn't put nothing on it. I mean, and on top of that, well, he would have had a fourth one to D-Hop if D-Hop didn't turn into a DB.
Right.
I mean, he got away with one to NWI that I thought was definitely picked in the flat.
Right. Yeah, I agree, Eddie Gray. The one to Tajay Spears was worse.
I forgot about
that.
Yeah,
that
was
it was worse.
Yeah, you're right.
He threw it. I mean, he led him out of bounds. Right. That's a layup. So, I mean, we can sit here and armchair quarterback this thing, but I mean, the missed wide open receivers at that level of football, again, I think it's just this lack of him having chemistry with the guys that's out there. I want to get some more of these. So EJ said, why not use Derrick Henry as a decoy to throw off the defense? I agree with you, man. Yeah. There was not enough play action in the game. I mean, you could probably count on one hand how many play action passes they ran. What? And to your point, J. Lou, that you were saying, off of the play action, people were wide open. Yeah. On the interception, he tried to force to Chris Moore. Chig is wide open for about 15 yards. Open. I mean, wide open. So.
To that point, to EJ's question, you can't tell me that Spears as a rookie is a better pass blocking than Derrick Henry. We saw Derrick Henry
We
on
saw
one of the
that.
plays clean up a linebacker. He made a good cutback on it. So to that point, why do you keep taking him off the field on third downs? Like, they know that's the predictability of the offense that has to go away.
Well,
You give him 1 and 2, and then you bring him off on third. And we know, to your point, G-Wit, it's been going on since Deion Lewis was around. You know what the play call is going to be when he comes off the field.
Even worse than that, the first play you get on offense, you get a false start. You go back 5 yards. You take Derrick Henry out the game automatically.
Never played. He never played that
the
drive.
That first series, never got to play.
Never got to play.
I'm like,
You get
come
a
on,
turnover.
man. It's 1st and 15. You leave him in the game, and like I said, if you're gonna throw the ball, but run play action with him, because they were loading 8 men in the box at that time of the game.
Yes.
So that means somebody was going to be open. But yet and still, you bring in Tajay Spears, and don't get me wrong, I mean, he played good. I thought he played good for a rookie. But the bottom line is, man, Derrick Henry is your until you develop your passing game, Derrick Henry is your viable offensive threat. That's the only one you got.
And until you get the chemistry with this offense, that's what you do.
You
15
got to
carries.
stay with that.
We all know we've been, since Derrick Henry has taken over as the sole workhorse for this football team, 25, 30 carries.
25.
He's got to have it.
Yeah.
He's got to have 15 carries. It's not even near enough. And you saw it. And Nathan mentioned, man, he was averaging close to 5 yards a pop.
Sure, one time he was averaging 6.
And Marcus Moyer.
Oh yeah, he learned.
Yeah,
he got that stiff arm business, didn't he? And so, I mean, yeah, we could beat that horse to death. But yeah, man, thank y'all for the comments and questions. Keep them coming, man. So, yeah, it's ugly, and we'll see if they adjust, because as you see, these other teams coming down the pipe, they're gonna score points. So we got to be able to score points.
Yeah,
we got to stay fresh.
We got away with one.
And so D-Hop leads the receivers with 7 receptions, 65 yards, NWI 458, and Henry had 2 for 56. Burks, on the other hand, Burks was awfully quiet today. He only had 2 receptions for 18. He dropped a big one for a first down conversion. He had a reverse. They put him in motion a few times. He didn't show up today, guys, and I thought that the presence of D-Hop out there would help him. And I think, and I may be wrong, I think the physicality of the game might have shook him up a little bit, because he wasn't, getting those releases that he's normally used to. And so it kind of took him out of the game. You didn't see him that much, right?
I wonder how much of it, and I give him a slight pass because he was injured too. I wonder how much of it is really thinking of that knee and explode. They say that explosiveness can be about 4 weeks away from coming back truly, but I agree. I just want an offensive coordinator like Arthur Smith that will scheme your best players open. And I don't think we did that in the passing game, because you say Burks was quiet. I counter that and say Chig was non-existent. And we talked about it this morning when we saw the call-ups and the inactives. You only were going in with 3 tight ends, so Chig was going to play a lot. And he's a mismatch for you, and I didn't see him at all. He was not involved in the play calling at all. So I think that's where we've got to do something to scheme your good players open. And again, you saw them trying to force feed your alpha dog, which is rightfully so. But if there's 3 people on him, you've got to look somewhere else, Tannehill. And I think somebody said it in the comments about him being predictable. At 36 years old, you shouldn't be staring down receivers or staying on one read.
Exactly.
but that's Tannehill though. He's always been that way. He gets in that mode sometimes, especially like I said. I thought he was sleepwalking through the game. When he's not on point, he stares down his receiver, and he's determined that the ball is going to go there. Yeah. And and that's the thing that happens with him sometimes. And it happened today. My problem was, again, this is going back to Kelly, man. And you mentioned about Chig. He did not use his weapons effectively, I thought, at all. And the other thing about it was what you saw come back again, which is the one thing we definitely did not want to see anymore, was those compact formations.
Yes.
You know, we just don't want to see that. I mean, you know, that's the thing that's been killing us for the past 2 years. You know, especially when you don't have strong, because let's be honest, right now we really don't have strong blocking tight ends. You know, the one strong blocking tight end that we do have, he's on the practice squad.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about Wesco or anything, but the bottom line is the compact formation. When you're going 12 personnel, you got to put Chig out or something, you know, on your, because I thought Chris Hubbard played okay. So I'm like, he held his own. So I'm like, put Chig on his side, put him out in as a flanker, and man, let him go. You know, come on now. To me, this is what I was complaining about. I'm like, this is why I was so pessimistic about the beginning of this season, because you just didn't know what he was going to do. And then, true enough, he reverted back to he who shall not be named.
I think right now, I think we didn't let them bully us today. I just think the defense got tired.
Yeah.
And you know, the offense going 3 and out so much and 2 for 12 on third down conversions, man. I mean, they're not moving the ball at all, right? 285 yards of total offense. You know, your quarterback throws for
1 for 9 on third down.
Yeah, and so 0 for 6 in the first half, and so you're just not producing.
Yeah,
and totally, I agree with you, man. We all know Tannehill is who he is.
No, he is who he is.
He's a serviceable quarterback when you can play action and keep the pressure off of him. He don't have to be the focus of the game, because 34 pass attempts
is too many.
That's too many.
34 pass attempts is too many, especially in a 1-point game. This was a Titan game when you give the ball 30 times.
Yep.
Like, that's what this kind of game was. And 34 passing attempts. Yeah, that's.
Remember when Tannehill first started, that was the one thing we did say about him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want him passing the ball 30 plus times a game. You really don't. You want it more even with the running game, or if you're, as you pointed out, the game was so close. You wanted to pound that ball down and wear that defense down.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the running back to do it. You got the running backs, plural, to be able to do it.
So down the chestnut.
Yeah. Like I said, the one thing about it, you could tell. I said it, texted to you guys. Kelly's not used to having a strong running game. You know, because he never really had one in Houston when he was calling the plays. So, you know, he had to throw the ball out. But in this offense right here, you know, second half, you in a one score game, and you got plenty of time, you can pound that ball, man. You know, it's just a matter of understanding game situation. I just thought today he did a poor job of that. Like I said, he definitely didn't run enough play action to help Tannehill out at all.
So Rodney Gaddis says, can we bounce back from this? I believe so, Rodney, because you think about it for a minute. They held the Saints to 16 points today with some weapons on the field. You had a receiver going 100 yards. Yeah, Carl threw for 300. I mean, they couldn't run the ball. So same thing as last year, right? So, and as we've seen the past few years, when Vrabel decides not to play his first team offense in the preseason, usually takes the first 3 to 4 games for them to build in the chemistry. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Sometimes
so
you hope the first game and a half.
Right. You hope that they can get some kind of rhythm with the Chargers coming in here this weekend, because they put up 34 today in the track meet with the Dolphins. And so it's not going to get any easier. So let's talk about the defense, fellas. 351 total yards of offense for the Saints today. 282 pass, 69 rush, 4 sacks. J. Lou, man, I know Arden Key, and I text y'all. We told y'all we came back from the preseason camp, man. The Arden Key, I bet he was talking so much garbage.
I know he was. I know he was.
Let's talk about this defense, man.
That defense, it was as advertised. I'll say the one thing that I will blame Bowen on, his best quality on the defense is his biggest curse. We could get so much pressure with 4 that you don't want to bring pressure. And I think near the second half, you probably should have brought a few blitzes, because especially to me, if we're blitzing, then that means that I know your DBs are playing up a little more, to go back to what you said about soft zone coverage behind. And I think that gives them that opportunity. You saw them rotate in. Tart Tart is a run stopping machine. Like, I don't know why they want to run the ball towards Big Pop Tart. I thought we've been saying forever, Amani Hooker is that guy as long as he stay healthy. Now he's in the concussion protocol after the game, and that was friendly fire. I mean, you can't. The only injury today that is a repeat offender is Christian Fulton, and the man went the entire camp
soft tissue
without
again.
a soft tissue issue and got a
Somebody
hamstring
brought that
injury.
up too.
But the Amani Hooker, I mean, you can't. I don't even want to say he's injury prone. He got friendly fired. I'm almost positive. What was it, a zero? I think that got him. It was one of them sticky missiles that got him. So you hopefully again how he bounced up and all. But we know if there's anything about Vrabel, he treats concussions with the utmost because he's a former player. So hopefully it's nothing major for him because you'd hate to see him out. But I thought this defense overall, again, outside of the backing up on DBs a little bit, the front four did a phenomenal job. And again, I feel like you've got to mix some Russians in just to keep the QB honest. Because if the offensive line know they only got to block 5, you started to see them do some things when they started chipping key or rolling covers to Danico and all. You talk about Tannehill sleepwalking. I think there's a few defensive plays where the D-line is a semi-sleepwalking because they're like, we ain't getting in any of the stunt. To your point, Eddie, you talked about it all last year. The stunts, eventually the offensive line picks up on your stunts. So I think that's the only thing I would have said about the defense. I would have liked to see a few more blitz. And I thought for the time that he was on the field, and he was on the field doing a lot of pass coverage, I thought Dr. Gibbons did pretty well.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
You did not hear his name called for pass plays, and that's a good thing. So I thought he did. He played better than I thought he would have played, especially against the pass.
Now, Eddie Gray, they said afterwards that Hooker was in a concussion protocol.
Yeah.
But I will say this, G-Wit, and then I'll come to you. Another name we didn't hear called a lot today was Harold Landry. Go ahead, G-Wit.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. Defensively, again, it's the tale of two halves with them. I thought the first half they really wreaked havoc. All 4 sacks came in the first half. I thought that Shane Bowen did not adjust to what the Saints was doing in the second half. Mm-hmm. He tried to bring a blitz one time with Molden, and of course, Carr saw it right off the bat, threw it to the wide receiver out that way, and they got a good gain out of it. With a player like Carr, you got to come up the middle on him and tell your defense, your line to keep containment, because he got out of containment quite a few times and made some plays, extended some plays. The soft coverage was driving me crazy. I was like, it's time. They're being physical with our receivers, but we're being soft with theirs. And with the route runners they got, you cannot be soft in that defense. You have to be aggressive. Hooker, played well. I thought Bayer did okay. Dr. Gibby, you could tell his film study was great because he was reading plays right off the bat and making tackles. Yeah, you didn't hear a lot about Harold Landry, but you didn't see much get past him either. So I thought he played okay, considering he's just now coming back off of that injury. First live game, I didn't really expect a whole lot out of him. He got close a couple of times on a couple of pass pressure, quarterback pressure, but that was the other thing that got me was that in the second half there wasn't a lot of passes that were tipped or knocked down or anything like that. And I thought that the defensive line could be because they were fatigued. They just weren't able to get their hands up. But really, overall, you can't be upset with this defense. They gave up 305 yards on passing, which is typical for them because, like you said, nobody can run on them. Shane Bowen has got to do better as far as calling up the defense, calling up blitz to keep those passing numbers down. Because, again, Fulton got beat right off the bat. And then when he finally comes back in the game, he squats down and gets just like jetted. Dude didn't even give him a double move. Yeah. He just went around him. So that's the thing about it. It was some things, some crossing counters they did that confused him. I saw Bayer get caught up in one where he actually ran into his own teammate and how you pronounce it, Olave, whatever.
Olave.
Yeah, he got open in the middle. I mean, you know, it's just one of them things where we were getting pressure, but we just couldn't get to Derek Carr quick enough. That was the biggest problem we had. We had good pressure, we just couldn't get them down in that second half. First half we had them. Second half we couldn't do anything.
I think that if he plays more now he can press and still play zone. So I think if he brings his corners up a little bit more and kind of throw the time of the receiver off more, I think you can see better pressure or more tip passes because I mean the receivers getting free release. Of course, they're gonna find a spot in the zone. I mean, a zone's always got a hole in it somewhere. The quarterback got time to look around, then he'll find it. But I think he needs to be more aggressive in bringing this. And we saw it with Bourne last year. While last year's more understandable because they were playing guys they picked up off the street and off practice squads, after those first 10 games. But to see it this year with, a better secondary, I will say this. We saw why Roger McCreary is a better slot corner because he's playing outside on the zone, and I don't know where he was going. He went all the way to the other side of the field, and they get that big first down to Olave, and they're down the field again. And so it's going to be interesting to see if he can adjust because, again, that goes back to what Vrabel said. The coaching has got to coach better. And Eddie Gray, you're right. The holding was all game. Defense, the receiver was getting ahead of offense. And they're not going to call unless it's just somebody taking their jersey off their back.
Mm-hmm. So not in that game anyway. Right. That was the thing about it, because I know that one interception that Tannehill threw to Chris Moore, it was straight up pass interference. It was similar to the play that happened against the Saints when they played in the playoffs against the Rams, where dude just knocked them out of bounds. This guy just pretty much almost tackled Chris Moore and didn't get no call or anything. So, it's just one of them things. I think, like you said, preseason games, they didn't play him a lot. So nobody's really in full season mode, I don't think yet. I will say this, though. I thought if anybody's going to cover tight ends, it's going to have to be Hooker.
So we'll see how long Hooker's going to be. Like you said, J. Lou, Vrabel, he's really big on those concussion protocols. And we saw over the past few years that, he don't take any chances when that's right. Ole goes for 8 for 112. Rashid Shaheed, 5 for 89. It's the guy that fumbled the opening kickoff, the rookie. And can't guard me. Mike Thomas had 5 for 61. Let's give a shout out to special teams, man. Nick Folk, 5 for 5, even a 50-yarder. Mm-hmm. And then you got Stonehouse with a directional 62-yard punt, which is a thing of beauty. So,
yes.
And I thought Jackson did a good job returning.
He did.
He did do a good job.
Good job returning. Yeah. He showed some good football intelligence out there, especially on that one play.
Right.
He was waving everybody off, and the ball bounced, and instead of him letting it keep rolling, he picked it up and ended up getting about 8-10 yards out of the run and everything. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, Nathan, I agree with you, man. The block punt was the issue.
Oh, who missed the block? That's what I wanted to know.
I didn't get to see the replay to see who it was, but yeah, that was a huge play in the game.
That's film study. Because if you go back and if you just watch Stonehouse even last year, he should have had several blocks last year. It's like his release is a little long, and if it's a little faster with his release, even with the missed block, I think he gets past that. But I think that was just because that was what the second pump, I believe it was one of the first ones. So with that, and again, that's just the way they found the little niche and how he releases from punting.
So as we after week 1, man, in the AFC South, the Jags beat the Colts today, 31-21. Colts is kind of competitive in that game.
Yeah.
Everybody else is 0-1. Texans lose to the Ravens 25-9. Texans defense actually played pretty good that game. I don't know if you guys were keeping up with the scores. It was coming across. J.K. Dobbins out for the year with Achilles for the Ravens. So week 2, man, the Titans have their first home opener. The first game at home opener against the Chargers, who lost today 36-34 in a shootout against the Miami Dolphins. J. Lou, man, let's talk about it. What is going to be the key for the defense for the Titans as they face this high octane offense with a lot of weapons?
Pressure, and I'm not talking about with just the front four. So Miami, we talked about it. Oh, and they didn't run as many blitzes today, but they ran blitzes, and You can, if it's one thing we learned about Herbert is a tough son of a gun, but he takes some hits, and he's probably that was a home game for the Chargers, so he's in the cold tub at home. But
Mhm.
I mean, he's gonna be ice bath up, and I think that's what you got to do with it. We've seen the Titans be able to. We played them last year. We've seen us be able to make the Chargers play in a mudded up type game, meaning our type of tempo. I don't think that the Chargers was a high scoring offense last year. They didn't blow us out like that, as far as putting up again the shootout. So I don't think you will see a shootout. I think the Titans just got to do some things to get it back to Titan ball. You can be more physical than the Chargers on their offensive line. I mean, because again, I don't think Miami is that physical of a team. They got a few dogs on there, but not that physical, and they were beating them up front. So you can get, and we saw that last year where the Chargers offensive line struggled. You can get there. They've got a dynamic running back out of the backfield. Now we got lucky today, and the weakness that we have on defense, the Saints really didn't take advantage of that because the tight ends really didn't go off. But to me, next week, Eckler is a weapon out of the backfield on pass plays. So definitely have to key in on that. But again, if there's one thing I'll say about the Chargers, again, I don't see a lot of burners on their receiving team. It's more bodies, more physical. So, but again, I think we've got to play our game, our style of football we're used to. I don't mind, and I saw it today, and I think when we talked about it during the preseason, I told you the running game would look a little different with athletic linemen. I think today you saw a little bit of that too with them trying to use the pass to set up the run, because it was very few times that Derrick Henry, when he did run on his 15 carries, was running in 8-man boxes. I mean, you want to get the king to the second level and let him put people on highlight tapes. So I feel like we need to find a way, and as long as we could keep three tight ends, I think you see that with a little bit more spread formations on running plays. So I'd like to see that a little bit. But again, I think this is a game where, both teams again coming in 0-1. The Chargers let one slip away. They got to come cross country, but it's not a team that's not beatable. Again, taking the point, I'm not even looking at the points they scored today, because that's two track teams right there. You expect that with them two teams. I think you make them play a dumbed down version Titan ball, and I think you got a great opportunity because you can be more physical.
G Witt, man, they had over 200 yards rushing today for the Chargers. So how's the defense going to address this offense coming in this week?
Well, to Jay Lou's point, I think it's going to go back more to what happened last year. Again, teams are not running the ball on us. I just don't see that happening. Not from what I saw in the preseason, and not from what I saw today. The thing about us, in all honesty, for us to win this game, the offense has got to be better. The defense can do their job. This may be a stretch, but I'm going to equate it to it. We are basically the 2023-2024 version of the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. We run the ball. We don't have the best, most elite quarterback in the league, but if he can just be efficient and make plays and not turn the ball over and move the team down the field with the running game and short passing game, or however the case may be, not trying to play hero ball and score touchdowns, we can win the game because our defense can stop anybody. Last year we played against them, and, really we played tough against San Diego, even with them passing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that if our offense can get their act together, it's going to make it easier for our defense, because one, they won't be on the field as often. That's the main thing, because they're playing, again, today they had to play too many plays. They had to play too many plays today, and they were worn out at the end. But I just don't see the Chargers running for 200 yards. I don't even see them running for 100 yards on us, really. That's going to be hard for anybody. But my thing is that the offense has got to be better. They've got to score touchdowns. They got to keep the pressure on them. And our defense, to Jay Lou's point, you got to get the pressure on Herbert. You got to get the pressure on him. You may have to blitz. You know, but somebody you got to make sure you cover Austin Eckler coming out the backfield because that's who's the dangerous. That's the dangerous one, really. And I don't know if we got any. I don't know who they would get to do that. You know, but that's to me that's the whole thing. You know, the offense has got to be better. Got to be better.
Yeah. So my keys for the defense was to slow the passing game down, to make it one-dimensional for the Chargers, aggressive in coverage, and of course get to the quarterback. Offensively, I think we see more Derrick Henry, more play action, up tempo. You know, quick, easy throws to get Tannehill involved, and of course play action to the top of that list. So
I think one comment from Joe, he put it best. If we just convert the 0-3 in the red zone to touchdowns, that's a different ball game. That's 21 points.
That's right.
So
That's right.
he's. I mean, as bad as the offense played, and let's remember they wasn't good. You still had 3 opportunities in the red zone where we usually have been money the last 2 years that you just didn't. You converted. I mean, we kicked 5 field goals.
5
field goals,
and only one of them was like from distance.
Yes, one was from distance. So that you got to be better as the field shrinks. They got to be better in the money zone.
Yeah, that's really a big issue. I mean, you know, and again, that it just drove me crazy today. I mean, you know, granted, missed passes. You know, he had opportunities for touchdowns twice. Really could have been 3 that he just absolutely misread and everything. So, to me, you just got to get back to fundamental Titans football. You know, I know everybody wants the wide open passing game, and that's fine. I think, like we said last year, instead of trying to run with that compact formation, spread them out 3 wide and let Derrick Henry run. You know, bottom line is, and speed up the offense. You know, speed it up. I mean, you ain't got to take Derrick Henry out on all the 1st and 15 or the 1st and 22. You ain't got to do all that. You know, keep your fundamental offense, but get up there and move the ball quickly. You know, don't go to the line with 17 seconds on the play clock and, you know, call plays for 15 seconds. That just doesn't make sense to me. You know, just call the play and let's go.
Eddie Gray says, with all disrespect, never compare us to that Ravens team at 2000, because the Titans 2000 team was better. Joe says, when was the last time we had that many field goals? Baronis? Probably
it was. Probably. The Houston game, he won with 8 of them, I think.
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about Baronis with that one. Then you had the other one where after who was it? Aldell Greco missed that extra point against that game-winning field goal against the Ravens, those 2000 Ravens. We went to Detroit the next game, and I think Jeff Fisher had him to kick 6 field goals.
Yeah,
he wasn't even trying to score a touchdown. He was just like, we're going to kick field goals, and he still got in the playoffs and got it blocked. So it don't matter.
Right. Yeah, Detroit got the boot and play your game and forget about all the fantasy.
Exactly.
I agree with you, man. I agree. So, man, thank y'all again for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. There on LG with J. Lou.
Yes, sir.
Week 1's in the books. Titans fall to 0-1. Got the Chargers home opener. Refs got us on that fumble. Yeah.
They
did.
Yeah. They did. Somebody did put it out there. The video of what happened with Josh Dobbs and what happened today is like.
The ball is on his wrist.
I've been talking about it
ball is on his wrist.
After Josh Dobbs' game. It happened 3 times in the playoffs.
It happened 3 times.
And was called the same way it was called today.
Yep.
Yes. Foolishness.
I mean, I'm under the conspiracy theory that the NFL officiating is just pissed at Vrabel because he always knows the rule book and all. They're just gonna find a way to just troll him by doing the worst for him.
You know what the ironic thing about that whole play was? Arden Key was involved again. The same thing.
Same
again.
Thing.
Yes, how about that? How about that? So,
and like the announcers were saying,
that's why he was running out saying it was a fumble because he
knew. Kevin Byard picked it up, and they really just took a touchdown away from me. You know, they should have called it a fumble.
You got a football on your wrist.
On your wrist.
And you say it's not a fumble. Anyway, I digress. But thank y'all again for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustment. Join us next week. We'll be talking about and breaking down the Chargers game after the first home game of the season, man. If y'all there, have a good time, enjoy yourself, and we'll talk to y'all again real soon. Join us next Sunday night, 7 p.m., man, here live on Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G. Witt, J. Lou. We out here, man. Peace.